Alright, I think we're live, so we'll just jump straight into it. But before we do that, I'm just going to double check that the stream is working. And I'll do this by hopefully just refreshing this URL, and hopefully it's up and live. And yep, so it's on 1080p. There's a little bit of delay there, but that's okay, and I suppose we can just get started. So I'm going to close this off, and I'm working on a small website here called Fred Snow, and we're just going to be building out the categories page over here. I wonder if I can have a little chat here on the left. So that's up and running too. Great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump here into the categories page, which I have open. And the first thing we want to do is, I suppose, redo the entire structure for this page. We did a previous page before where, oh, hey, how are you going? So I'm not too sure what the delay is on the chat, guys, but just let me know how long it is before you receive this message, and hopefully I can chat as well. There is an option here for lower latency streaming, but I'll probably have to check that out a little bit later, maybe next time. Anyway, let's have a look here what we're doing. So we're building out this categories page, and what I want to do is I want to redo the structure for it. Now I've got a similar structure here that I created for the single posts, and for this I had a couple of things I was doing. But the main sections that I was using here were these classes and divs. So what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm just going to reuse some of these. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just paste in the header here with a title. And I'll also pass in this block section here below. This way we've got some similar classes that we were using and some similar structures as well. We'll have to make sure that we reclose all these divs correctly, and I think that should be about it. Let's save that. And for an archive, the title doesn't exactly work the same way. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull in this title, but we're going to run a custom function to make sure that it doesn't show the thing here that says category, because essentially, you know, that's sometimes not very useful and that's not part of our design. So let's save that, and I think I have a copy of that function somewhere. I'm just gonna have a quick look for it in my documentation. So usually I like to save all my favorite little WordPress snippets. I can reuse them later. This is one for a query. Here's one for the archive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just paste this straight into the functions file. And that's over here. So what this will do is just remove the prefix there for the category. So now if we go back to the page and refresh, that should really just disappear, and it has. We've broken some of the styling there, but we'll get to that in a bit. So we've got this done here. We have a section here for the right of a category holder, and we're going to remove that. Let's jump in here, and this is that section there. So let's save and remove that. That'll clean that up a little bit. And then let's see what we need to do next. We've got this whole section here for categories in general. This goes across the whole page. So what we're going to do is we'll just create a new div in here. And this div can have a class, maybe something like archive category list. That's very descriptive, and that way we know what it's doing. And we'll create a theme for that class here in our CSS. We'll go down here and we'll do a background color of, I think it is that secondary variable color. And with that, we can jump in here and also make sure it's got a min height too. Let's do a height of maybe 400 pixels to start off with, just so that we can see that. And there it is. And what we'll want to do is add some content in there. Now the content we currently have in there is just the word categories with a couple of those main categories. So that looks like a little bit of a H2 tag. So we'll jump here into the archive, we'll do the H2 tag and we'll have that as categories. And underneath that we'll have that list item of categories. And that can be pretty generic. I think we had one we made earlier on the home page, so we might just use that. Let's jump here into the home page, which is just under templates. And what we'll do is we'll just have a look where it is. I think it's all the way down here somewhere. Ah, here it is. So I'm pretty sure this is what we used last time, but I'm not sure if that's what I want to use. We also had a similar one here in our header, and that's where we made a list item of a few different things. So in that case, I might use that instead. Let's also make sure this is all inside of a div with a margin from the left so that our styling is accurately set up, similar to what we had in our other sections. And finally, let's put in 1 or 2 test categories in here just to test out they're working okay. Great. Next project, React Native login and sign up with Express API. Yeah, soon. I actually have done something very similar to that, and it works pretty well. I'll have to have a look at showing that off a bit later on. Anyway, we've got this section here with this H2 tag, so let's style this. I'll put a H2 tag in here, and I think we've got a few here that we've done in the other areas. So this is 60 pixels, italics. And what I'll do is I'll just find another H2 tag which essentially has the same styling, so we're not redoing it all from scratch. Let's do 60 pixels and we'll hopefully find one somewhere in here. There, we had one before. Let's go up one. I like this one. This is essentially what we're going for. I'm just going to replace the styling here and apply it. That's looking good. Let's refresh that, and that's in there, but it doesn't have a white color, so I'm just going to replace this secondary color with just white. We'll also have to have a little bit of padding here, so I think maybe 50 pixels from the top and from the bottom maybe. Should be about right, but we can double check here in our XD design, and it's actually about 100 pixels. Let's fix that up. All right, so that's looking good. We've got our category in there. We just need to fix up this list item. Now I think we did a grid somewhere where we did a similar one. Here it is. I'm just gonna copy over this styling and hopefully it takes effect and just works. I'm gonna paste it in here, and we've got a grid with about 4 units with 1 fractional there at a max width of 200. Let's refresh, and there it is. So we've got our items in there. We take a look here, we've got a few different types of items, and ideally we'll wanna pull these out properly from WordPress with variable. So what I might do is, I think we had one on our single page. If we have a look here on the placeholder right here, we were grabbing all the categories and looping through them. So I'm just gonna reuse this bit of code. And hopefully it just works for us here in the archive section as well. I think this went in a UL, yep. So I'll just copy one level up. Okay, let's clean that code up a little bit and refresh our design. And now we've got our categories in there. So that's looking much better now. We take a look at our design. We've got a little bit less padding there from the bottom. It's only about 84, but that's okay. We can take a look at that a little bit later in. Now, the only other thing that I'm wondering is why this is overlapping there from the top. We don't have any negative margins, Oh, we do have a negative margin here from the top. So I'm going to remove that styling. I think that styling is, where is it? Post holder. I'm going to remove that, and that should remove the negative margin. Great. Now let's make sure this is responsive too. So if we go down different levels, we can see that it is getting responsive. We just have a little bit too much padding there. So we can fix that up now. We'll just do some media queries. Let's do a max width here of maybe LG. And here we might reduce this to say 75 pixels. Then we'll do another one here for MD. We'll do that to 50 pixels. And then finally for SM, I think 30 pixels should do. So now we can refresh that. And I think if we resize now, it should just go down. Yep, so that's looking good. The only other thing we need to do now is remove that manual height we set in earlier. Now if we refresh, everything's sort of responsive, it's adapting accurately, and yeah, now that looks good. So that's our category section done. We can move into the next section here, which is starting to display those posts. And the hierarchy for this post sort of change every single time you list one. One comes in from the left here, one comes here on the right. Otherwise, this big block here is more or less the same. So I might start off building this block, and then we'll take a look at doing the images next. Now let's jump in here and have a look at how this is actually happening on WordPress. So what we have here is a loop, and this loop is happening just over here where it's grabbing posts and running them in a loop. And that loop is then jumping here into the loop folder and grabbing the content-single.php file. So what we'll want to do is make our own loop really. Now, I don't really need any of this stuff that we have in here, so I'm going to pull that all out. I'm just going to grab this loop here. The rest can essentially go. So everything here from the wrapper to the wrapper is no longer necessary. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our own section in here. Instead of using this page holder, I'm going to create a div called archive post listings. That's pretty specific. And in here, I'll do a margin. Actually, yeah, I'll do a margin from the left. So margin from the left. And in here, we'll paste the loop. Now with this loop, we don't have full control of what's happening just yet. Right now, it's just sort of looping through these single articles. And I'm assuming there won't be any styling at all for that. Yep, it's just pretty much like this. Oh, we've got a question here from more that I think. What do you think about WordPress development in contrast to, say, certain JS stacks? I think it has its use cases. Essentially, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. For most businesses, you'll find that they just need something to get them up and running. It's easy for them to maintain, whereas with JS, it's more if you're doing a startup or a specific feature set that you need those JavaScript systems to operate and run it. So I think, yeah, WordPress is more for SME. There we go. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start working through this section here for the articles. And these articles are just over here that we were looking at. Let's start off at having a look at the images for the articles. Where are they? Grabbing a content. Oh, sorry. Maybe this isn't the right one. Maybe it's this one here. Might be this one here. Let's remove the thumbnail here and refresh. Yep. So what we're doing here is we're having a look at the posts that are being pulled in here on content.php, and we're going to customize them. Now in this case, what I want to do is I want them to essentially have this styling here. Now, if we take a look at this styling in general, it's going to have about 130 pixels from the top. Ah, hey there, Augustham, I think it is. Hey. So we're gonna have, let's see, 100 pixels from the top, I think, and 100 from the bottom, just because that's what we're doing with most of the other styling. And we're gonna do that here in our archive post listings. So what we'll do is we'll create some new classes for that. Here we'll have articles, and these articles have H2 tags, and these H2 tags also have some metadata, which I'm not really going to use this. I'm going to make my own metadata, so I'll remove that. And essentially some excerpts, and those excerpts, do they have p tags? Let's have a look. They do. All right. Let's just save what we have for now. And for this, I also want the H2 tags to start getting some of that styling we've defined. So this is the crimson text here that we have. We've got another message here from Dad. Thanks. Are you going to be doing some RN asynchronous approaches? Maybe with Node.js. Yeah. Doing more design this time, and I'm gonna slowly do a little bit more React Native, but I'll probably have to do some backend on there as well. So Node.js and async will be coming in the future. There we go. All right, so what we're gonna do now is jump back in here. And as I was saying before, we'll want to remove some of these images that are popping up. So I don't want this image to pop up just yet. And I want to update the H2 format that we're applying in here. So I'm going to copy that over and paste it in here. Let's refresh that. That's looking a little bit better. Then for each article, we want to give it a padding top of 100 and a padding bottom of 100. That should space it out a little bit more evenly. And what we could do here is for each article where the nth child is, I think, n2, or what is the variable? So every even one, we'll change the background color. Let's do the background color as maybe, I think, the secondary. No, it's the very light version of the secondary color. So that one, I think, is just this one here. Let's refresh that, and that's applied. So that's looking a little bit better now. Now, we were still getting a little bit of a margin there happening from the left. Why is that happening? All right, because we're applying the margin from the left on these articles. And while we want to do that, it seems that in this case, we don't want to do it because of the image. So for the time being, I'm going to remove that margin from the left class that we created earlier on. And that's just over here. So we'll remove that. That way they can utilize the full width. That's a little bit better, and we'll throw in the image a little bit later there. The second thing is we'll want to add some custom content in here. You're welcome. And the custom content, I don't really like using the excerpt because it adds these little dots, and sometimes I can't get the length and whatnot that I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my own custom function in for that, and I created one earlier, so I just need to find where I have that. Have a look over here somewhere. Let's open this up in Explorer, and I'm just gonna paste that in here. All right, oh, so we do already have that. So the function that I'm looking at is called the post summary, and what it does is it grabs all the content, removes all the tags, and returns it with the length, with a predefined length of 128. I'm going to use that in this case. And here in the content, I'm going to paste that in, and maybe I'll do 256 characters in this case. Let's refresh that and we'll see that it's taken effect. It hasn't worked on the test post story there simply because we don't have enough characters. So what I'll do is I'll just copy over some test characters here from our other post and paste that in here for the test post, just so that we have some text to play with. Let's save that and go back and go back once more, and there we go. All right, so we've got our title there. Our title in the design is black with no underline yet. So I'll fix that up as well. Let's jump into the CSS, and here for the color, I'll just do that as black, and this is if it's got an A tag. I think, is the A tag happening inside the, yeah, it's happening inside the H2. So I'll just put this in here and that should take effect. Great. Now the styling for this text here, it's actually a little bit bigger. It's font size 24. So let's see if we've got an example of that. Here we go. And I'm going to copy that over down below. Now I'll just put this straight on the article block so it applies to all the styling there. Great. So we've got that, and finally we've got this posted in section, and I don't really want that, so I'm going to remove that. We'll jump here into content, and this is the footer section here, so I'm removing that. And I also don't need these either, so I'll remove that too. Now we've got just these two articles here, which are starting to look a little bit better. And for these articles, what we might do is we'll wrap this inside another thing that we'll call article-body. And this is where we'll paste most of our content here. For article-body, what we'll do is we'll apply the padding in here because we'll have our image later, which we want to use. So let's paste this all in here. And the H2 tag can also go in there, so it makes a little bit more sense. And we'll have article-image here later, which we'll put in, but for the time being, we're not yet using that. We'll also want to do some responsive design on these padding sections. So let's maybe start off with a padding of 100 pixels on all sides. And then as we go down the responsive layers, so LG, MD, and SM, we'll change that padding. We'll change it here maybe to say 80, 75. Then here we'll put it down to 50 pixels. Oh, hey there, Bartos. For saying hi. Let's see, here we've got another message. It says, my design ability is bad. My font selection and colors are very bad. Do you find design thinking style courses useful? That's a good question. For me, it's I've never really thought too much about the colors. I feel like I'm pretty bad at selecting them too, simply because when I'm picking out the colors, then it feels like I'm just playing around with them until it either looks really, really bad or looks good. I think it's just spending the time to really mess around with all the design UI elements and the colors until you get something that resembles, you know, something that looks good. Usually I like to jump on sites like Dribbble or even just pull out colors that other designers are using and mix and match them until they look a little bit better. So that's usually how I do it. All right, so we've got we'll remove all these font resizing because we don't need that. And finally here, we'll move this down to 30 pixels. Thanks there, Alvin. I really appreciate that. That's why I'm doing it. I just want to help out other people. I've been doing this for quite a while now. And I thought, hey, maybe I can pass on something that I know. Hopefully that's something, but yeah. Anyway, we've got the padding sections now done here. If we take a look at our design, we've got most of these sections now done, but what we still need to do is add in an image, the more button, and some metadata over here. So what I might do is I'll start off with those buttons and metadata, because that's pretty easy. I think we've used that somewhere previously. Oh, crazy. It's 2:30 p.m. your time, 3 a.m. US time. Yeah, exactly. It's the timelines means that if I do want to stream anything or get more traction on my content, I usually have to post it near midnight. And that's really hard because my family's asleep and it's not a time period which I can really stream at. Whereas this is normally the time that I'm actually working. So yeah, I thought I'll just start up streaming, but if it's more efficient to do more of these videos at night, I might slowly push them back further and further. Maybe I should be doing them earlier in the morning at 6 a.m. I'll have to think about that. Alright, so we'll create this button over here, and we created a section for that earlier. I think that was here in our page. No, it was in our single section. And here at the very top, just below our image, we had this metadata section. And I'm going to copy that over. What I might do is take a look at how it was designed. So this is it here. And what we'll want to do is we'll want to have a hierarchy here where we'll have an element that's a little bit on top. So if we jump back here into our content and we go to the bottom here where we've got our entry content, we'll do entry footer. And in here, maybe we'll pass in that metadata, but we also want to pass in another button, and this button here essentially can be called something like our A tag, which essentially says read more. And let's paste that in here. And this can have a class of button-primary. We'll save that for the time being. And just take a look. We might have to copy over some of the styling we have here. Where's that styling? Here it is. And copy that over. Scroll down and I'll paste it in here. And the other part to that is we want this whole section to be a flex. So we'll jump in here for the entry-footer. I'll post it in here as a display of flex and pass that in here. Let's save that and just have a look at what we're going to see. So that's what we're seeing right now. Obviously this button is a little bit too big and we're still going to have to design out some of those elements so they look more consistent. We've got some margin here. It's a lot. It's about 100 pixels. I think that's too much, but that's what the designer put in, so that's what we'll do. And I'll copy some of this styling that I had previously. And what I'll do is I'll just do padding top will actually be margin top. And I'll just paste it in here and replace some of these sections. Let's replace the padding for each one of these, so that looks a little bit better. And have a look. So what's this? Have you used Foundation Press? Foundation Press? What's that? I don't think I've even heard of that before. Let's have a look. It looks like it's a starter kit. No, in our case we're using Understrap, which is my own one, but I might have a look at this one a little bit later. Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I usually am always working. So that's why I thought I might as well stream, I might as well do videos on what I'm doing. That way people can tag along and if they're interested and maybe learn something. Alright, so let's see why this button here is so large. We take a look at the font sizing here. My DevTools can load up properly. No, it's crashed. Let's refresh that and have a look at the DevTools over here. What is happening? I might reload this whole window because it's crashing and not working for me at all. Alright, let's try that again. Something's definitely happening there and it's killing my window. I don't know if it's my processes or what it is. I'm gonna exit out of Chrome. I'm not sure if this will kill the live stream, but hopefully it'll stay okay. And I'll be right back. Alright, so here we are. We'll go back into the categories section, which is just here in posts and in categories, and we'll just view any single one. And now hopefully if I just inspect this element, it'll work. No, something definitely is happening, which is a little bit strange there. I'm gonna go here into our single object. And I'm going to maybe remove that A tag that we have, because right now it seems like it's killing our design and my dev tools in general. That's here in content, and that's over here somewhere. Where is that? Here it is. Let's refresh that and have a look. So that's gone. And now if we inspect the element, hopefully we'll be able to see what's going on. No, I'm still not getting any styling whatsoever. What I might do is just see if I can view this on Firefox. Okay. And inspect element. Here, Jesus says it's pretty good right out of the box, but now since Foundation CSS has dropped off, the maintenance for the repo has also dropped off. That sucks, yeah. The reason I like Understrapped is because it's got a really good community behind there that are constantly... apparently I've got a loop somewhere and my posts are getting repeated. So it's crashing my computer. And we don't want that. We definitely don't want that. So that's over here. Somehow this got copy pasted into the code, I guess. Maybe. But let's remove that. Save, and hopefully everything will be back up and running. Let's jump in here and jump back into our website. We'll jump back here. Yeah, debugging is always difficult, especially if you don't know what the issue is. And now we're back up and running. We can add the A tag back in, and we'll just remove this author loop, which was happening inside of a loop, which was happening inside of a loop, which was, I think, killing it. And that's working fine. Now we can inspect the element, and there we go. So we take a look at the font size here. It's 24 pixels, which is correct. But, and this is but, we don't want it to be inside the body. We really only want that to be inside the entry content. So let's have a look where we've got that font sizing. That's over here. And we're just gonna paste that in below. Great, let's save that, refresh, and that should update. And now those buttons look much better now. We just need to add an author section there. And we can do that easily. We'll just add in a new PHP variable for the author. I think that's it. And let's refresh that. Dennis says WordPress brings back a lot of memories. Yes, yes it does. And for me, those memories are every single day. All right, so we've got our author in there, That's being repeated twice, so we're just going to remove the echo on there, and that'll only show up once. And let's style this a little bit. So here in our design, we need to have a little chevron right there. So let's do i.fa-fa-chevron right, I think it was. Well, that's the syntax for it. Let's save that and take a quick look. Yep, that's a little bit better. And we also need a little bit of a margin there on that A tag. So here, where's our article and our footer section, which is just here for entry footer. Where is that hiding? Here it is. We're gonna pull in this A tag. We're gonna do a margin right here of maybe 0.5 EM. That way it can resize dynamically. Okay, it's tiny. It's a little bit more in our design, so let's increase that a little bit. There we go. The padding that's happening here is way too much, so margin from the top can reduce to 85 pixels, and we'll push it down at each responsive level now. So this can be 30 pixels over here. Right, so that's looking much better now. But on our second one there, it's not looking very good, and we're gonna have to change up some of the colors of how that works. So what we'll do is we've got our even section there. So let's see, this is the class we need to change up. Let's copy some of these classes across. And here where we're setting the background as secondary, we'll just set it as white, and that should override the design. We refresh that, we can see it's white now. So that's looking good. We've got our two sections there, and they're almost ready to go. We just need to add some nice big pictures in there, and that should be fine. So for the pictures, we'll jump in here for the content sections. And right now we've got this nice big article body. And what we want to do is we want to add an article dash image. Easy. So what do we want in here? I suppose we want our image itself. And I like this to exist as a background style. So I wonder if I've got another CSS bit here, which I can copy across from some of my older code to be able to create that. I think I do. Let's have a look quickly. Here we go. And it's this one just over here. So we'll paste that in. This essentially checks if there is a background thumbnail. If there is, it creates the styling for it. And all we have to do now is create some CSS for this. So over here, we've got our article and we've got our article image. No, that's correct. Yep. So we already created a class here for it. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a display of flex on this so that they're back to back. And for the article image, I'm going to give it a width that's set here in the design. And in the design, that is almost 600 pixels. So let's do width 600 pixels. Let's also apply a height. And for the time being, I think I'll just get a responsive height for that. Let's see. The height here should be also about 600 pixels, but I don't want to set it just yet. I'll just set a background color for now. And that'll just be a nice gray color. Great. And there it is. So the width on that hasn't really worked very well. I'm guessing the fact that it's a flex means that it's sort of being pushed back a little bit there. If we make sure that the article body has a flex of 1, and refresh that. That should utilize the normal amount of space, and the rest is there for the image. So that's looking a little bit better now. Now, what's happening here on my stream? I can't see my chat notifications. Okay, all right, we're back. So we've got this image in here, and what we want to do is we want to set it back to back. Now, the way we can do this is by using this even section again. And when we apply this even section, we're going to do a flex direction of, I think it is column reverse. Let's give that a shot. And that way our second section has the flex. It's gone. I think it's row reverse then. Let's double check that. And there it is. So that's our developed code here, and that's our design. So we're getting closer to our objective here. We just need to put in the images in there, and I reckon this section is almost finished up. Now, to do that, what we'll do is we'll do some styling here for the article image. I'm just going to do a background of our background color. We'll put this in as gray or even secondary, because that's what it could start off with. And we'll put in background size, that can be cover. Background repeat will be no repeat. We can do background position, and that'll be center. Great. That's looking a little bit better now. And these here now need to be able to pull in a background URL. So it looks like they are, and it's not showing up because I think the background color is overriding it. Oh no, sorry, it's actually being applied in the wrong spot. So that's why. We'll just pass in an image here and apply the same variables, and that should work. Let's have a look. No, I've done something wrong there. Let's double check. This. What I might do to make this a little bit easier is I'll just pull this out of the article image section. And I'll remove this out as well. We won't even use this. And instead, we'll just keep it simple as a simple div with a simple class. And that should all work. That's done. Now we can just finish up by adding a couple of things, like making sure the permalink is correct. It doesn't just go to a hash. So we'll save that. And let's have a look. So that's good. That's good. That's good. And we can now have a look at making sure that this section is now all responsive. Now to do that, we'll just test out how it's working right now. So if we resize it, it's let's have a look at which pixels we're on. That's about the LG level here, or XL level here, that we probably should start breaking it. If we have a look at our design here, we don't really have a choice of what the responsive design should be looking like, so we'll have to make it up as we go. I'm thinking we'll collapse up the flex that we're applying. And we'll do this quite early, maybe at MD max width LG variable. And we'll just make it display block. Let's save that and see what it looks like. That's just about here where we're making it a block. But that might be even a little bit too late. We might have to do that a little bit earlier. So maybe on Excel. Or actually, what we could do is we could resize the width of the image on Excel, and maybe we'll make the width a little bit smaller, maybe 480 pixels. Then when we get down to LG, That's when we make the width back to initial, but we'll set a height, and maybe the height can be something small, like maybe 240 pixels. And that's where we'll also remove the flex and change it to a display of block. Hey Dennis, love your support for me and Lauren. Yeah, thanks for that. It's always nice when you have some people tagging along and giving feedback. Because yeah, it can get lonely if you're streaming by yourself. All right, so let's keep resizing this. So we are getting that image getting smaller, but somehow our sections in here aren't looking very good. And that's because I think the padding on them might be a little bit too large. Those are here, and the current padding we're applying to them is here in the meta, but we're only updating the padding when we get down to SM. I'm going to update the padding at the XL where they have less padding in general. So what that means is that they've updated, but the more button has, sorry, the read more button hasn't. So it might be too early, might have to do that a bit differently. What I might do is I might collapse this whole section so that it works a little bit better on the XL responsive design element. So here I'll just set this to display block. And over here where I'm doing a margin right, I'll also do a margin bottom, I think. Actually, let's just have a look first what that looks like. So here we're dropping it down. I'll make sure that this is display of inline block, so we don't get that weird margin overlap that we're getting over here. And I'll also make sure that this has on the XL level a margin bottom of maybe 15 pixels, just a little bit. Let's have a look. Now we're meant to be putting this in our A tag, so let's do that. Margin bottom 15 pixels. Great, so that's looking a little bit better. Yes, it does. It actually took me about 3 months to prepare for streaming, where first I practiced making 3-minute videos, then 5 or 10-minute videos. Then I made it all the way to 10 to 20-minute videos. I practiced doing some 1 or 2 hour videos by myself where I clipped out all my mistakes. And now I think I finally feel confident enough to do some streaming. So yes, it takes a lot of confidence, training, and practice. Alright, so we've got this section now looking good and it's responding well. I think this image can be a little bit bigger when we go down a layer. Right now it's only 250 or 240 pixels, I think. And what I might do is I might increase this to 360 pixels. And I'll only make it 240 when we get down to a much lower size. So now we take a look at it. Yep, so that's looking good. Let's keep going down responsive levels. Yeah, no, that's great. The font size here, I don't think that's reverted back to 18 pixels. So let's see why that hasn't. This is it, just over here. So we've got to copy this styling in here and remove the font sizing. So now, yep, that's looking much better now. So now if we resize, yep, it's working on all responsive levels and our second one is fitting in. And I think that's it for our category sections. That's looking really good. Let's see if we select another category that's updating all well. We can go into one of our posts and that's all in there too. We go back a post into another one, it's working very well. Yeah, so the Adobe XD to WordPress part 3, that one's still in processing. I do the videos normally in 4K, and it means that YouTube sometimes takes up to a whole week to process them. So they're only in like a 240p mode until YouTube actually checks them out and processes them. So right now I'm just waiting for that. So I'm already up to part 3, and I thought, hey, I'll just stream part 3 to show you guys what's happening. And you'll probably see part 4. You'll probably see part 3 coming up sooner or later in the next couple of days. All right, so let's jump back in here. We've got our section here for the categories done. This is this big section here. We don't have all these categories yet. We don't have this next page section yet, but everything else is done. So as we get more posts in a little bit later, we'll take a look at finalizing that. But what I'd like to do now is have a look at some of the other pages that we have here. Like we've got a photos page here. And this really isn't a photos page. This is more like a WooCommerce store where you're purchasing stuff. And this is more here like a WooCommerce product where you're purchasing one of those items. We've already sort of done the navigation here. We've done the contact form and we've done the internal page. So this WooCommerce store is really all that's left now. And to start off with that, I suppose I'll have to install WooCommerce if you guys have used that before. So what I'm going to do, just delete some of these old plugins here. We're going to go WooCommerce and we're going to find it and install it, set it up, customize it, style it, and all that other jazz. And it's gone. WooCommerce. Maybe I didn't spell it correctly. There it is. So installing that is the easiest part of setting it up. It's the features that take the most amount of time to get up and running. While that's installing in the background, let's see what else we can do here for the design of this. So for the store section, pretty simple, that same sort of title there, and the list items we can sort of make our own. It's going to be this section here that'll be a bit more complicated. So that's still installing over there. So this looks like it'll be very similar to the section we created earlier as a single page. I think it's the About Us page. No, actually, that won't really work. Maybe it'll have to be a bit more like the blog post sections we've created. So if we jump in here to our posts and our categories and view one of them, and here we are, it's sort of like this, where we've got the main bit of content here in the middle, and then we've got most of our other stuff here on the sidebar. To do that, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we'll get through it. So I think WordPress WooCommerce has now installed. We can activate that and we'll just quickly go through the setup. Let's jump here to the Contact Us page and copy over some of this information. So here we'll do Australia, paste some of this information in, WA, postcode. I don't even know what the postcode is for Bunbury. Let's have a look. Postcode. There we go. We'll just copy that across and keep the rest normal. Let's go continue. Now we don't really want any payment methods yet, so I'll just leave that as empty. We don't want any of this yet, so I'll leave that as empty. I don't want any of this either, so I'm going to skip this step. And Jetpack? No, I don't want that either, so I'll skip that. And that's it. So we can now view the dashboard and create our first product, and let's have a look at what kind of products we have here. We'll create this one here called Press Pause. So let's here jump into WooCommerce, go to products, And we'll create our first product here. So this is press pause, and we've got some content here for that. So let's copy that across. This is the little H2 tag that it has. So let's put that in there. And we've got some content here below. So let's copy that and paste it in here. And we also have this image here, which I'm gonna export. So let's double click on that. File, export, selected as a JPG straight into our Fred Snow folder. Not sure what that's gonna look like, but where is that? I think that's this one here. So let's copy that straight into our product section. I wonder if I can drag that in. No, I can't. That's fine. I should be able to drag it straight in here. Great, that's looking good. We can save that. I think all of this actually goes. Does it go in the? Yeah, I think it goes in here. We'll also have to create some categories for this as well. I think this is a categories of photo journals. So I'll create a new category for that. Let's put that in here, photo journals. Add that in. Great, so that's done. Let's view our item here, and this is what we have. It's pretty stock standard. We're gonna have to redesign this whole thing so it looks a little bit like this. Now, the first thing we'll have to do obviously is put the title up here on the top left. We'll have to pull the content down here for the main section below. I don't think they want reviews, so we can remove that, but they do want related products, which we can add in a little bit later. This is going to be a little bit tricky because WooCommerce has its own way to sort of style itself. And if we have a look here, we do have some generic stuff that is already in there for having single products and whatnot. But in general, this is going to be very tricky, and I might have to do this in another part. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. It's my first one, and just wanted to give it a test. If you did, share it, like it, subscribe, all that good stuff. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.